Hi, Felix. Welcome to the 10x Marketer podcast. Let's start with your introduction, and I have a lot of questions for you, man.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm Felix. I'm a chief marketing officer for several brands. And yeah, I specialize on Google Ads and touch as well on Meta and email for a full funnel approach. And yeah, I focus on scaling brands, not on having a big in platform flashy dashboard.
Awesome. That's a good intro, and I would really love to hear your thoughts on the full funnel approach. Let's start with the first question. So, you have been telling that almost 99% of e commerce founders have the same issue that every time they increase the budget, they have a drop in the return on ad spend. Have you been able to find the root cause of this paradox, and what are the chances that you can easily identify? When did you encounter it at the first time?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I would say most of the e-com founders that come to me face this issue at some point, and that's why they end up reaching out. And after auditing hundreds of accounts and working on different verticals, I found out that it boils down to two simple things, which are a robust foundation and looking at the right metrics. So when I refer to a robust foundation, this means that an account cannot grow if the foundation is weak. So if you're trying to build on top of that, it will crumble. That's why we need the basics in the account set up properly. And this, I think Miles McNair and Bob Major put this very well. You need your conversion tracking, your targeting, your offer. You need your landing pages, your account structure, the creative, and the budget and the bids to work together in a joint effort to get the best outcome possible. If just one of these pieces fails, then it's hard to scale. And that's why you may see that when you try to scale your budget, your ROAS drops. Another thing, as I said, are the metrics. People focus on the wrong metrics. A lot of advertisers focus on the wrong metrics. And that's why they struggle to scale the brand. So yeah, if you're looking too much at ROAS and relying too much on ROAS, this may handicap your performance. And this is because ROAS looks great in theory. That's how much you put in or how much you get out, but it relies on the platform attribution. So it's not perfect, and attribution is very messy. There are a lot of factors in between, such as cookies that are being blocked with ad blockers as well. And then we have initiating session in different devices and different users. And then Google has to stitch those sessions together. So it's very hard to get this right, even with the AI modeling that Google has nowadays. So focusing on the right metrics, it will enable brands to scale.
Mhm. So you talked about wrong metrics that brands are tracking. Uh, let's list down what are the wrong metrics versus what are the right metrics they should actually be tracking.
Awesome. Yeah. So I wouldn't say there's right and wrong metrics. I think everything has its place. But I think in the e-commerce space specifically, there's an over reliance on ROAS.
Mhm.
I think ROAS would fall under the bucket of overhyped metric or something that everyone uses and that I wouldn't recommend for all the cases. It is useful to see performance for campaigns. However, if you are after growth and scaling, you should be focusing on things like your CAC, your customer acquisition costs, and definitely you should be focusing on your MER or your media efficiency ratio, which looks at your overall spend across channels and what's your bottom line in the business. How much are your gross profits after that? So that's very useful because it gets rid of the attribution problem that we were mentioning before that ROAS is subject to. So yeah, those metrics are key. And then to really scale a brand, you need to focus on the Econ Vitals that I call them. And these are your average order value, your sessions, and your conversion rate. Those are the three metrics that if you maximize, you will see real gains.
Awesome. So that's a good list of metrics. And you don't have to look just on the return on ad spend. You have to go beyond and talk about the customer acquisition cost. Now, where does lifetime value fit into this game?
Oh yeah, that's another key one, really good one actually, because when you're looking at your customer acquisition costs, you have to consider as well your lifetime value. So for example, for a supplement brand, they will not always make a profit on the first sale. So the customer acquisition costs might be higher than the profit. However, lifetime value is where the profit lies for some brands because it's a repeated purchase. And overall, the lifetime of this client, you have made a profit considering your acquisition costs. So for some brands, it makes sense. For some brands, they need to make a profit on the first sale. So it really depends. But yeah, lifetime value is a key metric to look at.
Awesome. And you talked about something called media efficiency ratio, or MER, as you want to call it. What it really means for a brand, and how do you calculate the MER? What are the metrics that goes into the calculation, and why is it so critical to track it?
Yeah, great question. So media efficiency ratio, it's really useful because it looks at your spend across channels. So how much you invested on Google, how much you invested on Meta, email, SMS, all your channels. And then it looks at how much you made. So this way you can have a true vision of your returns. And this is good because it gets rid, as I said, of the attribution problem which we face nowadays, which is the customer journey is not linear anymore. So when someone sees an ad, they probably see an ad on Facebook, they get to know this brand, then they move on and they search you on Google, then they get retargeted and maybe they sign up and then they end up buying from an email that they received. So all these platforms will claim the sale because Facebook will tell you, oh, look, I have the cookie from this user and they made the purchase within 90 days. So this is thanks to me. But Google will say the same thing. Oh, this user clicked on my ad and they purchased. So what ends up happening is that the same purchase may be claimed by different channels. And that's a problem with attribution. Another problem with attribution, as I said, are the ad blockers, the cookies. Having different devices is hard for Google to stitch these sessions together if you find a brand via a YouTube ad on your phone and then you purchase via another computer that's logged in on a different Google account. So that's why MER is so useful. That's where MER comes to play, because it focuses on your investment and how much you got, and it doesn't bother about the attribution. And then from there, you can do incrementality tests. You can look at, okay, this month, if we see that Google is doing well, let's spend 20% more and do an incrementality test. After the test, if performance looks good and you look at the MER and it went up, so you're getting more back for your dollar. Essentially, you're getting more profit from the dollars, the marketing dollars that you are spending, then you know that Google is a channel that you can focus on. And that's why MER is such a good metric.
Understood. So the one issue that I found with most brand or the attribution model overall is that it is never able to get you the right picture. Even with AI modeling, you are saying that it's not 100% accurate. Now, as a brand, when you're spending across platform, MER gives you a like macro picture, which itself might not be perfect for investment decisions. Overall, you know that whether you're making profit on your overall investment or not, that's a good way to understand your marketing. But when you have to decide at the platform level where to go, what, where to invest, what, how do you decide that, and what kind of how can you get the attribution right to a level where you're able to make a correct decision when it comes to investment?
Yeah, great question. So obviously different channels will take different jobs in the customer journey. So for example, Meta is really good at acquisition by nature because of how based on creative it is. And that way you can tap into new customers that they don't know you. So you're generating demand. People don't ask to see your ad, but based on their interest, they get served an ad from you. And then Google, on the other hand, is really good at capturing this demand. So if you are specifically typing in something of interest, then the ad will pop up and then you can capture the sale. And then at the end, at the bottom of the funnel, you have email that is really good at nurturing this user and really good at retention. So if they've bought from you in the past, they may search you and they buy from Google, but they may see your emails and they may repeat purchases and they can make more purchases. So to reply to your question, you have to look at your metrics, whether that's on Shopify, Triple Whale, whatever software or backend system you are using to measure your single source of truth, essentially, and look at what's your acquisition MER, what's your number of sessions, and then how many new customers you have, how many returning customers you have. And if you're seeing that acquisition is slowing down or new customers are slowing down, then you have to double down on your Meta or your Google prospecting campaigns. That might be demand gen or YouTube. On the other hand, if you see retention is slowing down, then you know that you need to work on your email, on your remarketing across platforms. So that's a very good way to single out where to invest your marketing dollars.
Awesome. That's a valid explanation, but still it leaves out something very, very critical. That is, these platforms have started doing enhanced tracking, and Meta is almost asking for every information that your user submits on your website, especially for the Shopify domain or e-commerce specifically. They almost ask you the entire information, like they want to get everything about the user. Now, let's start with a privacy debate, which I don't want to get into because this is not the topic of our discussion today. But is enhanced tracking somehow able to help in attribution or increase your conversions? What is your experience with enhanced tracking so far? Or is it just Meta's way of collecting data from website users?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in short, yes, it is very helpful for dedoubling in the case of Meta with the conversion API, and then on Google with enhanced conversions and offline conversions. I think it's crucial because I believe that in this game, whoever's got the best data setup wins, because it's feeding back to the algorithm the information that it needs to thrive. So yeah, in my experience, it's a must nowadays. If you want to succeed, if you want to scale a brand, if you want to advertise, you need to embrace automation. You need to embrace these the new updates, and you definitely need to follow these best practices such as conversion API for Meta, enhanced conversions for Google. This is, I would say, maybe half of your strategy or more, because if you are hindering growth by not equipping the algorithm with the best data, you will struggle to grow, which is what we were covering at the beginning, right? If you try to increase your budget and then your ROAS goes down, it may be because you are not using your right tools.
Okay, so let's talk about the tools now. You talked about MER. Do you need any third party tool, or it can be like you can build your own dashboard to calculate your MER and maybe take the right decisions?
Yeah, I love this question. And yeah, shout out to Ricardo Freitas for showing me this. But basically, I think there's a myth in the industry, and people think that tracking the right metrics is very expensive because you have to hire third-party software like Triple-Way, Northbeam, and so on. But the reality is that you have at your disposal very good widgets in Shopify, WordPress that can pull the data that you need into Google Sheets, for example, and then you are able to automate your reporting, and you are even able to measure things like MER, your contribution margins, which are also very, very important. How much is each platform bringing to the table? So yeah, I would highly suggest advertisers to have a look at widgets and apps for Shopify, WordPress, and so on, because it can be really useful and save you a lot of money.
Okay, now there's another campaign that is making a wave in the industry, and many people are able to, like, maybe they're advocating that they have been able to get great results. Some people come and say that this is total disaster. My experience has also been mixed with different brands, and I'm talking about Performance Max. I hope you got the signal. Now, what is your experience with Performance Max so far? Is it a really good campaign, or does it hide everything behind Meta's AI and you don't really know what is happening behind the scene?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Performance Max is an interesting one. It's been around for a while now. We've just recently got access to a full breakdown of where your money is going, essentially, and the contribution of each channel, because as you know, TMax shows ads across YouTube, Gmail, search, display, and many other placements. And before, we were blindsided by Google, and we had to use scripts like Mike wrote the scripts and so on. And I think those scripts are still relevant, but Google is trying to give us a bit more of clarity into these insights. Even we can see now whether an asset group is receiving certain impressions or clicks. And before, it was just, we just were told if that creative or asset was good, poor, very good. Okay, so that was definitely not enough. And now we've got access to all these things. So yeah, to reply to your question, I think PMax can be a very powerful weapon to scale your brand when used right. So if you have the right data setup that we were talking earlier, with your enhanced conversions, offline conversion tracking, and then you've generated enough data and you have enough conversion data stored on the product IDs, then yeah, I would highly suggest to test PMax, because it can help you reach more people and grow your brand. However, if you are after a lot of control, maybe you want to stick with shopping, and that's absolutely fine. We have clients that are able to scale with just shopping. So it depends on the business needs, but it can be a very powerful campaign when used right.
Understood. So that's a very good explanation when it comes to Performance Max, and I think most people are still trying to figure out, including us. It works really great in some geographies, but it is a disaster in some countries. Now let's talk about your YouTube short success stories. You have been talking about making 100K months using only YouTube Shorts. What has been the underlying story behind this success? Do you want to talk about it in detail? Because many people might be interested in understanding how to use the YouTube Shorts the right way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So YouTube Shorts, again, it has its purpose and its place in the account. As we mentioned before, the Econ Vitals are sessions, conversion rate, and average order value. And YouTube Shorts or video campaigns, they are very greedy type of campaigns. They, whatever budget you set it up to, they will consume it. So they are really good at spending your money. So they do a really good job at increasing one of the Econ Vitals, which is sessions. If you're after bringing a lot of people to your site or testing new audiences, and that way you can install a cookie on them so we can work on converting them at a later stage. I think YouTube Shorts is a great way of doing it. Also, they are great alternative for remarketing. So I wouldn't lean only on your Performance Max to do the remarketing for you. If you have a YouTube Shorts campaign, for example, you can control more the audiences that is serving to, and you have more control over this in general, which is usually a good idea. So I've tested different approaches. I've had different ad groups with different angles. I've had just one ad group and dumping all the videos in there. So it really boils down to the strategy for the account. What I would say is to always structure your accounts in a way that you're keeping as much data within them as possible. If there's a reason to segment or separate that campaign, then by all means do so. For example, if you're targeting another country, or if you're sending a specific budget to a new product, for example, or you're trying a different bid strategy, then absolutely segment, but otherwise try to keep as much data within the campaign, because that's how Google thrives, because it's based on machine learning. Another big thing is that in the past we had a conversion bid strategy for YouTube Shorts, so we could directly bid on getting more conversions. And now that's gone. That's why some people are moving to demand gen, and that's where they do their prospecting or even having a second demand gen for remarketing.
Understood. So now let's end this discussion with your expert advice or tips on how people should be using the MER and then also the YouTube Shorts the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is actually such a great question, because what will happen is that a lot of the time by launching YouTube Shorts, it may not look great on the ad account or even on third-party attribution software, but it is a very good way to bring people on your store, right? And to increase your brand awareness, your category interest. And by looking at MER, you may realize that having YouTube Shorts on is a good practice for your business, or not. You may see your MER completely crater when YouTube Shorts is on. So that's why having the right metrics is important, because it guides and informs the strategy in a way that's prompt and that is based on data.
Understood. So thank you so much, Felix. I think we had a fantastic discussion. Your understanding of the e-commerce metrics, attribution, YouTube Shorts is great. Thank you for joining me, and thank you so much, guys, for listening to us so far. It was really a pleasure talking to you, man.
Thank you for having me, mate. Yeah, we can do this again.
Yeah, for sure, we can do this again anytime in future. And thanks, guys, for listening to us so far. Make sure you subscribe to the 10x Marketer podcast before leaving. We are available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube channel. See you all in the next episode. And thanks once again, Felix, for joining me.
Thank you. Cheers.